All right. So in this video, what we're going to cover is mainly a very in-depth, you can call it a masterclass or whatever you want to call it, but basically an overview of how to run the social funnel that lots of coaches and lots of other people are preaching. I do believe in it. I do believe that there's lots of marketing methods that work. I'm only sharing what has worked for me and what I'm currently doing and what has worked for the offers, mainly in how they're scaling past 100K, 200, 300, so on and so forth per month. And so basically, I'm going to give just, from A to Z how this works and just share my brain. So you can use this yourself and start using this social funnel. And the reason I like using this is because mainly the way I like to frame it is if there was a mountain, would you prefer, pushing a big boulder up the mountain, or would you prefer going down the mountain and skiing? And I like skiing down a mountain because it's much easier. It does take a little bit of work at first, but mainly you're nurturing lots of people in the beginning. Then you have qualified leads, and at scale, I've seen it become very powerful. And what I mean by powerful is hitting 7-figure months. All right. So let's dive in. So when it comes to first having an offer, or let's just say hypothetically, I'm onboarding a new offer, what I like to do in the beginning is always making sure that I can understand what's the highest leverage that I can use to make this a blue ocean market. What I mean by that is taking the advantages of what the owner, what the product, or what the leads, or what the social, media already has, and understanding how can I introduce myself into this market in a way that my offer is different, but there are some characteristics or variables from the offer that stands out, and it doesn't have to be some sort of guarantee or blah, 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 but rather has to do with the advantages and leverage that the owner or the product already has. Let me give some examples, right? So fitness offer that I've been working with for about a year now. In the beginning, they were focusing with just people who, just want to quit, stop tracking macros. And we changed that, all up. Actually, it was intuitive eating in the very beginning. We changed that all up into let's focus on CrossFit because about 50, 60% of your leads are already CrossFit. And let's not go into intuitive eating. Let's go quit tracking macros because most of the people who are doing some sort of diet actually are tracking macros. So that can be a way where we don't have to say intuitive eating, but we can, get into this niche that's untapped, which scaled pretty nicely. And then let's, use the mechanism of quit tracking macros. And another one is a performance fitness offer where, we're mainly focused on Muslim men. With performance. So that's a way that we can stand out. Another one is an e-commerce offer where we're using the advantages and leverage of the owner making 30 million in e-com sales. And that holds a high authority in the marketplace instead of just saying, well, we can make you X, Y, and Z in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or whatever. Right. So again, I like making sure that I take a step out and I say, well, how can I introduce myself into this market to have the highest blue ocean leverage opportunity by using what we already have? And that typically takes, in a way, almost like a Rubik's Cube, to step out and understand what is the right way to fix this sort of, or create the best solution with what I have right now. Right. So that's the biggest thing that I feel like has the highest leverage because it's going to help you if you are using boosted posts, which is the start of the social funnel. So you can actually start implementing this as well. So in the beginning, simply what I like doing is to make sure how can we actually start attracting followers into this system, right? In this most simple way is by using an IG boosted post. And all that means is if you have a reel or you have a Twitter thread or whatever post, you're going to see, if you go to your account, it's going to say boost posts. And from there, you're going to be able to pick your audience, your age, and the type of objective that you want to boost as well. And so simply the two type of posts that I found that works best is a profile visit, so you can attract followers, and messages, so you can obviously track messages. I'm going to cover the followers one. If you want me to do the messages one, I can do that in another, overview. But basically, all that is you want to make sure, whether it's a Twitter thread or some sort of reel, that in the first 5 to 10 seconds or the first thread, you want to make sure that you're calling out your audience, right? And the most easiest way to do that is by making sure that you have some sort of hook, a headline that defines the audience that you're talking to and what they want, right? So let me just create an example. I actually just scripted one just for this type of video, right? After managing a 700K per month team and scaling multiple offers past 100K plus months, here are my top 5 tips on how you can do the same for high ticket coaches only. Right. So as you see here, right, I'm showing, what they want in a more subtle way, right? And I'm calling out who the audience is for high ticket coaches only. If I wanted to do a reel, I could say, if you're a high ticket coach and you want to learn how to hit your first 6-figure month, here are my top five tips on what I've learned after managing a 700K per month team and scaling multiple offers to do the exact same thing, right? 5 to 10 seconds, could be obviously less. And I'm calling out the audience. And what that's doing is Instagram is going to be able to, really find those people who are wanting to, follow you or watch your video or, go through your thread, so on and so forth. And it's going to be an easy way to, follow that process. After that, deliver some value. At the end, have some sort of CTA to follow you with the thread. It could be a simple thing like, well, these are my top 5 tips. If you want daily tips on how to do this, follow at your username. At the end of a video, of a reel, you can say something along the lines of literally what I just said, right? Well, these are my top tips. If you want more daily tips on how to do this, go through my Instagram profile, drop me a follow, and I'll show you on a daily basis how we are doing this as well. Something along those lines. Again, call to action. And what you want to be around is around the, $1 to probably max $5 per follower, depending on who you're at. Now, how you want to test this exactly, I typically like stacking interest first. So all the interest that makes sense, it's going to be anywhere from 3 to 5, depending on who your audience is. And then once you find, in the first week or two, you're going to just test different types of creatives, different types of threads, different types of reels. And you're going to find some sort of message that starts working. It's going to be, maybe it's, really calling them out based on, this type of goal, or really saying this specific age or whatever, it's obviously different for every niche. Once you find that message that starts working based on the data and metrics of obviously the cost per follower and the quality of those followers, then you can start testing different interests because you have a winning message, and then you can have different interests to kind of see, okay, like which one's actually working, right? So that's a process I like doing. You can start being a little bit creative on how to do this yourself with this information given in the very beginning. Then what that's going to do, it's going to attract some followers and it's going to generate some conversations. And all you want to do in this process is with your daily content, with your stories that you're giving away free resources or creating free resources, poll votes, Q&As, daily, stories where you're giving value, maybe some lives that you have on Instagram. All you're doing now is you're starting to nurture in this process, and you're going to start having conversations with your followers because they're going to be interested in some sort of tip that you're giving away, in some sort of resource, or in some sort of poll vote that you're going to be able to reach out to them, right? And all that nurturing and generating that sort of authentic type of conversations. Again, it's not super scripted, but rather it's this back and forth of, oh, what do you do? Oh, okay, awesome. Here's a training that I have if you want, or here's a free resource, or I see that you're interested in free resource. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions before I send it over? All that stuff is going to start booking calls, right? So we got the boosted posts, we got the followers. That's going to generate conversations from all these nurturing sequences. And then that's going to start booking calls. And when you actually start booking calls, say you have a DM setter or you're doing it yourself in the beginning, it's great to go DM setter directly to book call. But eventually you're going to want something along the lines of a triage call or a discovery call, which is simply a 15-minute call where you go over 2 things. Are they in pain? Meaning, do they want help and do they need help? And also, do they have the right finances to also afford the program? Right. So with pain, what I like doing is discovering tonality. I like discovering the urgency of their need. And do they want that help from you? As long as you get those variables, I'm saying this more in an advanced way, then you understand that they're a good fit to hop on a call. But part 2 of that is understanding their finances. And what I like typically doing for finances is filling out a form with the actual client saying, hey, typically what we do is fill out a form just to make sure we have a better understanding. Do you mind if we go through this together? And then from there, what we end up doing is we make sure that in this process, we go over different questions. Then we touch on finances. So generally, based on where you're at, would you say, you're above 5K or below 5K, above 2K, below 2K? And you start exploring a little bit more if they're a good fit of where they're at. And you can be very open, saying, awesome. Now, is this a process where, or is this kind of a situation where you're around the 3 to 5K range or like the 1 to 3? Got it. All right. If you're from the 1 to 3, let's say they need 5K or above. Would you say based on your monthly income, like what would that look like on your end? you know? And then it's like, yeah, I have 4K. Okay, anywhere income after expenses, like how does that kind of look like? It's like, oh, I have 2K after expenses. Great. They can be a 3Pay for a $5,000 program. Then you push them to the closer, or you taking that call, right? So I always like getting very granular on that with the setters, or if it's you in the beginning. And then eventually, once you start having those closing calls, the main thing that I always like making sure that I implement is that on the call, you have the right tonality and frame for the right type of offer. I've seen very B2B offers that I work with where it's very direct. I wouldn't say cold, but the tonality is very direct, just very straightforward. You don't really have to go, share stories and understand lots of emotions because people just know what they want. Two, a B2C type of offer where you're really understanding what's going on. You get really emotional and, takes, sometimes a little bit longer because of that. So you want to make sure you have the right tonality and frame of the type of call. That is what I typically implement with the offers and then the sales team. And then you also want to make sure you have the right objection process, like objection handling process for a closing call. So, these are the two things I typically like looking at if I were to, choose two things. And typically with the objection handling process, what I like doing is making sure that you have the pitch, you have a tie down, whether it's a program or finances, whatever the objection is, you isolate it. If it does have to do with finances, you have an open wallet where you go over their monthly income, income after expenses, their credit, their investments, what they have saved right now. And then from there, you start making sure that you go into fear once you start negotiating a type of deal, right? So, in a gist, if you were to be in this position in the beginning, you're probably going to be around 10, 20, maybe 30 or $40 a day, bringing in, 10 to 20 followers. You can probably start doing this yourself. And the way to actually scale this, right, from the boosted post to the followers to the booking calls and closing calls, is making sure that you just raise your budget, to $100 or $200, $300 a day, add more setters and closers to the system. You might have two setters, two closers. And then when this is pretty, when this is going and it has its kind of flow going and it's just going to keep pumping out to, people who want to follow you, then you're going to be mainly focused as you start, hitting six figures, 100, 150, 200, really focus on the team, right? Do we have good A-player setter team? Do we have a good A-player closer team? Are they making sure that they're getting the right pain and finances? Are they making sure they have the right tonality and frame? And what I mean by that is a lot of times closers can have the right tonality and frame, but they end up easing up on that and going back to their bad habits. And then are they going through the right objection handling process? If you focus just on these things right here on a daily basis and you start having calls, call reviews, checking in with them, sending voice notes, whatever that looks like, you're going to make sure that you can scale with this. And then you can also scale with this. And you're going to have one closer and one setter, then two and two, then three and three, then four and four. And eventually, long term, I have this in my other videos. Once you start hitting 300, 400, 500K months, then you're going to start relying on the product to sell itself to have a higher LTV value. Right. So hopefully this has helped. I just really wanted to share this mainly because I want you all to implement this and see if it can work for you. I want you to try this system. I believe a lot of people are holding back on talking about this system, but it's honestly not that hard when you have the right information. And that's all you need. Right. So see you on the next one, and we'll chat soon.